there's this whole thing with Iron Fist where, a lot of people feel that Finn Jones should not have been cast as Iron Fist, that they should have found an Asian actor to play Danny Rand. And I guess I'll save my opinion for after I cover this. He went on Twitter this week and he shared something about how representation is important, and here's why. He shared something that Riz Ahmed wrote. Riz Ahmed of Rogue One, Riz Ahmed of Nightcrawler, and The Night of. And so he shared this thing, and he got like backlash for it from a bunch of people who basically kind of treated him like, oh, please, who are you to talk about representation? You took a role that should have been for an Asian actor. And it kind of went into this whole long back and forth. And to his credit, he never got nasty. He never got petty. He never, swung below the belt. He never took it to any nasty place, Jones. But he ended up actually like deleting his Twitter for a little bit. He like disappeared so that he could, quote unquote, focus more on filming the Defenders, because this little Twitter joust he was having was suddenly becoming very all-encompassing and taking on a life of its own. So he released a full statement. I will read that real quick. He says, there is a huge benefit to engage and help shape conversations on social media, especially when it comes to giving a voice to social matters. My original intention was to amplify a speech made by Riz Ahmed at the House of Commons. It was a very articulate and important speech on representation that I wholly agreed with. After posting, I was inundated by people accusing me of not being allowed to share his voice, based on an assumption that our show is going to play into the problems of racial inequality on screen. I engaged politely, diplomatically, and attempted to bridge the divide. I'm currently in the middle of filming, and I need to stay focused on bringing to life this character without judgment. So I decided to remove myself from Twitter for the time being. I am very proud of the work everyone has done on this series, and I'm excited for people to see how we've adapted the story. We have gone to great lengths to represent a diverse cast with an intelligent, socially progressive storyline. I hope people can watch the show before making judgments. In times as divisive as these, we need to stay unified, compassionate, and understanding in our differences. And you know what? I think he's handled this remarkably well. I don't know that I would have been half as patient as he's been throughout all this. The fact that you've got people out there bugging out about this. Listen, I'm trying to be sensitive because I have ended up in the lion's den before with like social justice warrior types who come at me about this specific topic. Because for me, I have a whole sort of look on diversity in casting and in television and films that isn't very popular amongst, my fellow leftists. And it's funny how that happens. How like I'm on, we're all on the same side here, but they hate me because I don't necessarily want to stand in a soapbox and feel like diverse casting is the most important issue of our time. So I'm trying to be sensitive here. But for me, it boils down to the fact that Danny Rand was never an Asian character to begin with. And part of, from what I've been told, remember, I'm not a comic book guy, but from what I've been told by guys who are comic book guys, is that part of the lore, part of the Danny Rand story is that he's an outsider into this world of Asian mysticism. And that he goes there, he goes to where he goes and he gets his powers and he learns what he learns. And the fact that he's an outsider is an integral part of the story. And for me, like that sort of, like that ends this discussion. He was never Asian. So how can you call this whitewashing? And if you're taking the stance that, well, they should have been forward thinking and changed it to an Asian anyway, to me, there's almost a part of that makes me feel like, and maybe you're going to be mad at me for saying this, but it almost makes me feel like you're being ungrateful for the phenomenal work that Marvel is doing with diversity. And with the fact that, like, look around at the Defenders. Look at his fellow teammates. You've got a female superhero, which those are hard to come by. So you have a strong female superhero. You have an African-American hero in Luke Cage who doesn't play into stereotypes and is just a great heroic figure. And his whole series sort of tackled certain stereotypes and cliches in a very positive way. You've got a handicapped man in Matt Murdock's Daredevil. So those are his teammates. You have a strong female superhero, you have a strong African-American superhero, and you have a handy-capable man who's blind but still out there fighting the good fight. And now you're pissed that they didn't decide to change the race of Danny Rand, who's always been white, to Asian, because suddenly now things aren't diverse and inclusive enough? Like, come on, guys, pick your battles here. This is not the company to attack for this kind of stuff. I mean, I would almost argue that there's very few companies that you should be attacking for this kind of stuff, but I digress. Marvel, and in particular, these TV shows on Netflix, that whole subsect of the Marvel universe, these are the last people you should be attacking for their quote-unquote lack of diversity and for quote-unquote whitewashing. And I'm trying to be sensitive, but I just don't get it. And if anyone out there listening, if you want to try to engage me in a grown-up way, I'll be happy to engage you. If you're going to come at me with some sort of pissy, snarky rant, then spare me. I'll just, I will not engage you. But anyone out there who thinks that I'm missing something in all this, I'd be happy to hear what you got to say. My gut says you're picking the wrong fight with the wrong enemy. So good for Finn Jones handling this the way he has. Really good for him.